On the day of the college entrance exam, my boyfriend and I were waiting for his childhood friend. Seeing that she hadn't come down by 8:30, I grew anxious and said we should leave first, but my boyfriend still wanted to wait. So, I forcibly pulled him away. Being late means it's over. He had no choice but to leave. As a result, Chime, because she was late, jumped from the 7th floor examination hall after finding out. My boyfriend's eyes turned red as he stared at me. Would it kill you to wait 2 more minutes? You're the one who killed Rian. You did it. He slapped me right there on the spot. But the next day he apologized to me, saying he had spoken too harshly yesterday. Kneeling on the ground and crying, begging me to forgive him. We made up and returned to being as close as before. Later, we both got into Nanjing University, which became a wonderful story. I thought time would heal the rift, but the unexpected came so suddenly. After starting university, I was stalked, harassed, and threatened by a pervert. He spread rumors that I was a murderer, saying I was jealous of my boyfriend's childhood friend, and drove her to jump off a building. He also frequently took photos of me while following me, and placed them on my desk or in my books, leaving notes in red ink saying you really wanted to mess with me. Even when I went to the bathroom for a moment, my books and seat would be stained with liquid. My clothes were also cut up. A sticky note left on the desk said he wanted to eat me. I'm going crazy. I was about to call the police, but my boyfriend said that even if I did, the most they would do is give the person a warning, which wouldn't really help. Instead, it might provoke them and lead to extreme actions. I compromised, but the other person only became more aggressive. They started sending me harassing messages, and even called me in the middle of the night, saying they would come after me. I've been tormented beyond recognition. I'm in a daze, constantly living in fear of being watched, as if in the next second I would be bullied by a foul-smelling fat pig. A few years later, I developed severe schizophrenia accompanied by severe insomnia and extreme timidity. At the slightest disturbance, I would be so frightened that my whole body would go weak. Fortunately, my boyfriend stayed by my side the whole time, constantly encouraging me, which helped me persevere. Otherwise, I don't know what I would have done. After finally getting through graduation and struggling with my boyfriend to get into a big company, I thought everything was finally over. On my first day at work, a familiar sticky note appeared on my desk with the words, "You can't run away. I'll be with you forever. If you even slack off a little, I'll devour you completely. The way you lived while sleeping last night was truly beautiful." I completely broke down, screaming wildly and saying my boyfriend had me admitted to a mental hospital. The next day, he came to visit me, smiling sweetly. "Sung Chan-chan, have you enjoyed these past few years? I did all those things. That pervert is me. Ha! Can't believe it. Can you?" My boyfriend laughed maniacally, his face suddenly turning ferocious. "You deserve to die. All of this is what you owe Rian. I'm just collecting a bit of interest on her behalf. Enjoy your time in there. It's going to be a long one. I'll come see you. You mad dog. Every day from now on. Ha ha ha." I feared the howling, but no one would believe me. A mental patient. After that, I completely lost my mind. When I opened my eyes again, my boyfriend was waiting for his childhood sweetheart, Lu Rian. I instinctively felt a surge of fear, but quickly forced myself to calm down. I have been reborn. Why hasn't Rian come down yet? Her boyfriend, Chinzi, said anxiously. "She should be coming soon. Go find her. Carry her faster," I suddenly said. Chinzi's eyes lit up, but he hesitated slightly. "Can I really?" He looked at me. "Of course. The college entrance exam is important. Go ahead." I laughed. Shinsha was overjoyed. "Chan-chan, you're so kind." He quickly asked me for the fare and hurried back without a moment's delay. "Wait for us a moment." My expression immediately turned cold. Who would have thought the boy before me could be such a mad dog? And he took the money, afraid I'd run off first. I waited until he ran far away, then flagged down a taxi by the roadside, pitifully explaining that I was going to be late for the college entrance exam and had no money. The driver didn't hesitate and gave me a free ride. After closing the car window, I couldn't help but stare at Jean's eye, who was still running around in the neighborhood waiting for you. You'll be late for the college entrance exam and fail miserably at 01 at 8:45. I got off the bus at the school gate, but I couldn't see any examinees. Frightened, I started running full speed and finally entered the examination room at 8:50. The students are all seated and ready for the exam. The teacher has already handed out the papers. Good in time. As for Jinzai, who cares about him? Soon, the bell, signaling the start of the exam, rang, and I still didn't see Jinzai's figure. He was in the exam room next to mine and would pass by my room. It wasn't until almost 15 minutes after the exam had started that I finally saw his figure running frantically. What a shame. Why wasn't he late? I sighed and continued with the exam. In my previous life, I had already checked the answers after the college entrance exam. So, except for the essay, I could basically figure out the answers instantly. 45 minutes early, I was already checking when the bell for the Chinese exam rang. After handing in the paper, I waited for them at the school gate to go home for dinner together. But what I ended up waiting for was a tearful Lu Rian and an enraged Jinzai. How can you be so selfish? We agreed to leave together. Why did you go ahead without me? I was about to make an excuse, but Lu Rian spoke first. Chan probably thinks the college entrance exam is more important. It's fine if I'm late, but we shouldn't let it affect Chan. She's in the top 10 of the whole school. Wait, why does it sound like my fault that you're late? I was just about to speak, but I got cut off again. Does over a decade of friendship not matter compared to the college entrance exam? So, what if you're in the top 10 of the school? Is Rian's college entrance exam not an exam? Jinzai is frantically accusing me. You're truly despicable. Brother Z. It's okay. I'll just retake the year. Lu Rian cried and wiped her tears, saying it was fine, but she was almost sobbing to death. How much pressure does retaking a year involve? And it's a waste of a year. Chunze grew angrier. Speak up. Are you mute? Apologize. I saw Lu Rian's smug expression as if saying, so what if he's your boyfriend? He still sides with me. I sighed. I waited there. So what was the result? Chunze was taken aback, pausing to think. Lu Rian grew anxious. You clearly left us behind, causing us to miss the taxi. I glanced at her and smiled. Would there be a car waiting for me if I just stood there? Lu Rian didn't hesitate. You could have called a car for us in advance. Chunze also snorted coldly. Exactly. If you had called a car ahead of time, we wouldn't have been this late. Are you still trying to make excuses? I raised an eyebrow. So why didn't you come down earlier? We agreed to meet at 8:20. But you didn't come down until almost 9 o'clock. Right. Lu Rian panicked, then burst into tears. I know Chantian blames me. It's all my fault. It's all because of this wretched stomach of mine acting up as soon as I step out. It's all my fault. As she spoke, she began frantically slapping her own stomach in self-blame. I'll beat you to death. I'll beat you to death. Chunze quickly grabbed her hands and turned to yell at me. Rian didn't do it on purpose. This isn't something she can control. How can you blame her? You're so heartless. If she's not at fault, then am I the one to blame? Should I have wasted my own time waiting for her, whose college entrance exam isn't important? Why should I have called a taxi for her in advance? Do I owe her? I didn't even blame her for almost making me late, and now she has the nerve to blame me. I said it all in one breath, feeling quite angry. Chunze widened his eyes as if he were seeing me for the first time. How could you say such a thing? We grew up together. Would it kill you to help out a little? Lu Rian seized the opportunity and started crying again. Whoa, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have blamed Chan Tian for leaving us behind. I deserve to die. I deserve to die. She said that, and then slapped herself. It's not your fault. It's some selfish bastard. Chen Liangjin stopped her and continued yelling at me. I never thought you were such a selfish person. I really misjudged you. I sneered. What kind of people were you when you blamed me and put all the blame on me? I agreed to leave together, but I never agreed to leave even if I was late. Did you arrive at 8:30? If we're talking about responsibility, you're definitely the one who should bear the brunt of it. Blaming your stomach is all you can do. How dare you have the nerve to blame me for leaving first? Shameless. Lu Rian's face turned pale. I turned to Chunze. If you're not going to help me, fine. But do you really want me to be late? Chunze stammered. I didn't mean Lu Rian panicked, quickly saying that it would definitely save a lot of time. Can I still get a taxi 15 minutes early? Do I have money on me? I asked again, leaving Chunze speechless, seeing Chunze's shame. Lu Rian burst into tears again. It's all my fault. It's all my fault. Chan hit me. I comforted her. Just knowing your mistake is enough. Don't keep trying to shift the blame next time. We're all adults now. Lu Rian's face was pale as she looked at Chunze. Her eyes were red. Brother Zay. Chunze was just about to speak, but I cut it immediately. What? You almost made Chunze late, and you're not even apologizing. Don't you know how precious 15 minutes are? Maybe you even cost us 10 points. Lu Rian was frantically apologizing. I'm so sorry. Zay. Just hit me. Chunze felt uneasy. It's nothing. After that, we took a taxi back to the neighborhood. When we parted and headed home separately, I suddenly felt a chill down my back and quickly turned around. Lu Rian averted her gaze. I laughed. Don't make Chunze late again this afternoon. Seeing her leave in a huff, I curled my lip. What a joke. Trying to confuse right and wrong. Shed a few tears, and then frame me. I'll just wait and see what else you're going to pull next. 02, just after finishing lunch. As I was about to take a nap, I saw Chunze sending a message in the 3-person group chat. Chan, let's go to Rian's house. 2. Watch anime together. Lu Rian also said, it's a perfect time to relax. Are you kidding me? We have a math test this afternoon. I refused. Lu Rian started acting up again. Chan, stop cramming. How are we supposed to relax when you're like this? 666, are you trying to provoke me again? And Chunze is actually siding with her. Studying a little longer won't improve your grades. Don't you understand the importance of balancing work and rest? Come on. I was speechless. I'm going to sleep. Lu Rian persisted. There are still over 2 hours left. It won't take long. Could it be that Chan is blaming me? Can you stop being so petty? It's not you who was late. Chunze immediately blamed me. I definitely don't want to be late this afternoon. Studying a bit longer won't necessarily improve my grades, but slacking off will definitely lower them. Don't you understand that? I laughed, but unexpectedly Lu Rian said, Chan, I was wrong. Please forgive me. Okay, don't scare me. I'll be unable to sleep. Wail. Song Chan, you jerk. Why do you always have it out for Rain? What's the point of constantly targeting her? I'm not going to change my mind. Chunze did not hesitate to rebuke me. So, you mean I'm being petty? Afraid she'll take you away? I wish you would. You're really despicable. Go ahead and change your mind if you want. I'm not going to waste my precious time watching her mess with outsourced anime. You say you know you're wrong, but if you know you're wrong, why do you keep making the same mistake? She doesn't even know what the damn mistake is. I didn't hold back in scolding her. And what does your insomnia have to do with me? You came to watch anime with me, and now I can't sleep either. Should I cry? 2. Lu Rian fell silent, but Chunze was fuming with anger. You've really changed. It's utterly incomprehensible. You're crazy. Who's changed knows it in their own heart. Stop bothering me. I sneered. Some people with poor grades still want to drag others down. You'd better watch out for yourself. I'm not going to be so stupid as to joke about my own grades. After saying that, I logged off directly and got ready to sleep, but within 2 minutes, the phone rang. Rain is crying. Because of you. Get over here now. Chunze roared. Does crying after doing something wrong make it right? What's wrong with you? I'm the one who should be crying. I treated his words as a dog barking. Hung up immediately and blocked him. Don't say she's crying. She could die, and it wouldn't be my problem. At 2:30 p.m., I arrived at the neighborhood entrance on time, and as the clock struck, I was about to wave for a taxi. You're going to run off by yourself again. Chunze's sarcastic voice suddenly came from behind. I glanced at him. Should I wait for the person who slandered me? Who knew he would get all worked up? How can you say that? Rain felt so guilty. Because of you that she couldn't even sleep well at noon. Lu Rain looked haggard and forced a smile saying, It's okay. It's my fault. I apologized to Chan. As she spoke, she actually bowed to me, seeing that I didn't respond. Chinza immediately scolded me. Why aren't you apologizing back? I was so angry I laughed. What does her guilt have to do with me? Why are you blaming her for feeling guilty? If I slap her, and then say I was wrong, and feel guilty, does that mean she should apologize to me? And what's more, I don't even want to talk about you. I'm your girlfriend, and you're not helping me. But her. You might as well just be together. After saying that, he hailed a taxi, and prepared to leave. Chinza's expression shifted, and he gritted his teeth. Can't you be less petty? We grew up together. Would apologizing kill you? Lu Rain tearfully said. It's fine. Brother Zay. Chan isn't wrong. It really is my own fault. Look at Rain. Then look at yourself. Chinza snapped angrily. Apologize now. The victim cannot apologize, I declared with righteous indignation, and got straight into a taxi. Don't bother with these two lunatics. The college entrance exam is more important. You won't get in the car unless you apologize. If you've got guts, just leave us here. Chinza shouted from outside the car window. I didn't hesitate. Master, drive. Chinza was frantic. Song Chan, are you really going to take this to such an extreme? You'll regret it. I couldn't hear his regret anymore. The car was already speeding. 20 minutes later, I was already seated in the examination hall. A few minutes later, Chinzai passed by, and I glanced at him only to see a cold expression on his face break up. I'd be delighted if Chinese composition still had some difficulty. Math could be said to have none at all. In my previous life, I scored over 130, and after the exam, I went to find my math teacher to thoroughly understand the test paper. Finished again 45 minutes early as expected. Probably a perfect score. When the bell rang, I handed in my paper and headed straight for the school gate, planning to go home by myself. As for those two beasts, I didn't bother waiting. No need to get scolded again. Unfortunately, being scolded only makes you late, but it never misses. I had just gotten home not long ago when my door was knocked on. Chinzai glared at me with red eyes, saying, Rain didn't do well on her math test, and is crying her heart out. Go apologize to her. Dead, I sneered, not caring in the slightest, and was about to close the door. That has nothing to do with me. But he blocked the door tightly. How can you be so cold-hearted? She didn't do well. Because you made her feel guilty. Chinzai shouted. I cursed loudly. Get lost. If she's so guilty. She jumped off a building. Am I supposed to pay with my life? Chinzai, furious, grabbed my hand and pulled hard. I don't have time to argue with you. Apologize now. Otherwise, we're done as friends. Let go. If you keep this up, I'll call the police. I warned. Are you trying to sexually harass me? Chinzai froze, staring at me in disbelief. It's just asking you to apologize. Is it really that big of a deal? Why are you so stubbornly refusing to apologize? It's not like you'll lose a piece of flesh. I shook off his hand and said calmly, Then why are you so stubbornly insisting that I, the victim, apologize? Apologizing won't make me lose flesh. But what about next time? If she slaps me for no reason, cries, and says she was wrong, do I still have to apologize? Chinzai was furious. You're just being stubborn and unreasonable. You were the one who started being unreasonable. If you care so much about your childhood sweetheart, go find her. I turned and headed home. Zenzei shouted from behind. Fine. Song Chan, I see right through your hypocrisy. We're breaking up. I yelled back. You're the one eating the wicked and being hypocritical. Break up then. Then I was kicked out of the small group, and my contact information was also blocked. Haha, just as I wanted. I turned around and deleted and blocked them, too. I don't want to have any further contact with these two lunatics. At that moment, I received a text message. Oh my, Chan, why did you delete me? Brother Zay was just speaking in anger. If you beg him, he might forgive you. Or, you could beg me, too. I sneered and retorted, You, a failure who can barely handle one book, are worthy of Zenzei. Once he goes to university and meets more outstanding girls, he'll kick you to the curb. Lu Rian was furious. You, who've already been dumped, stop barking like a dog. I'm sure she'll spare no effort to keep Zenzei, who's in the top 10, right? Isn't this exactly what she had been striving for as 04? The next day at 8:30 a.m., I arrived at the neighborhood gate on time and immediately took a taxi to school. At 8:50, I sat in the examination room recalling answers from a past life, occasionally glancing at the window. 15 minutes into the exam, Zhenzhe still hadn't arrived. At the 16th minute, a figure hurried past. It was him. The corners of my mouth lifted. Lu Rian. Well done soon. Zhenzhe left the examination hall in a daze. I almost laughed out loud. Serve you right. Then I focused on solving the problems. The science section was easy. Data never lies. Finished 45 minutes early again. Piece of cake. After the exam, I left the school gate to hail a taxi home. But Zhenzhe, with red eyes, blocked my way. It's all your fault. Why did you delete Rian? You made her so upset that she was miserable until midnight. And, because I had to keep her company, I ended up oversleeping. He looked furious, as if he wanted to beat me to death. It's fine. Brother Z, Chanchin doesn't think much of a slacker like me, and she might be worried about her low ranking, Lureen kindly advised. But it sounded more like she was stirring up trouble. I glanced at them sideways. So, why did you keep her company chatting if she goes out robbing? Someone now, can she blame it on me? 2. Because I made her feel bad. And you. Stop your little tricks. Don't spread rumors here. Does this ranking affect my score in any way? What a genius. He blames me for staying up late and flirting himself. If he can't get up, he slaps himself and curses himself for staying up late, or slap her. Curse her for dragging you down on the day of the college entrance exam. Not letting you sleep. Lureen was frantic. You're slandering me. It was clearly you. I shouted. What about me? Even if it was me, would you make Chins lose sleep over it? Are you that foolish, or do you have ulterior motives? Lureen's face turned deathly pale as she leaped toward Chins. Brother Z, I stopped shifting the blame. You were the one who upset Reen first. Chin snorted coldly, siding with Lureen without hesitation. I can't be bothered to listen to your nonsense. Get out of the way. Otherwise, I'll call the police. I said coldly. All of this is just the consequences of your own actions. You can't pin it on me. If you're not convinced, call the police. Do you think they'll listen to your false accusations? Chin's face darkened, and he remained silent. Lureen then said, Forget it, Brother Z. It was me being overly sentimental. You're right. It's some guy who doesn't deserve friendship at all. Chin snapped coldly, pulling Lureen, and turning to leave. He deleted me. So, I'm not worthy of anything. I sneered. I wouldn't dare want a friendship like this after finishing the English exam smoothly in the afternoon. Everything was over. The homeroom teacher stood at the podium, giving final safety reminders for the summer vacation, then wished us a happy graduation. I hope you all get into good universities. The classmates instantly cheered and clapped. Only Chins had a face as dark as redstone. Lurie, and was still comforting him beside him. Brother Z, let's repeat the year together. We'll definitely get into a good university in the future. Chinzi trembled all over, forcing a smile as he nodded. Then let's go find our homeroom teacher to sign up after class. Lurie, and said happily, thinking about signing up for a repeat class right after finishing the college entrance exam. How ambitious! I almost laughed out loud beside her. After the class meeting, I went to ask the homeroom teacher something, and happened to see Chinzi and the others there. What? You want to repeat the year? The homeroom teacher's expression darkened, then quickly sighed. I told you earlier to stay in the school dormitory, but you insisted on going home. Fill out the form, and I'll get you into the key class for grade 11. Come for tutoring during the summer vacation. Lurie, and couldn't help but complain. Are you really coming over during summer vacation? The homeroom teacher glanced at her. We're in the final stretch. Do you still want to take summer vacation? What were you doing earlier? If it weren't for you being late for the college entrance exam, you could have played however you wanted during summer vacation. After saying that, she sighed with deep regret. Such a promising 985 candidate. Just like that. It's all gone. I couldn't help but say a few words to Chinzi, and his expression turned extremely ugly. Lurie, and sensed something was wrong, and quickly shifted the blame. Teacher, actually it's all Song Chanchan's fault. If it weren't for her, we wouldn't have. The homeroom teacher waved her hand to interrupt. Chan-chan already told me everything. It was you who had a stomachache in the morning, and then went to chat with Chinzi in the evening. It has nothing to do with her. Luri, and was furious. That Song Chan-chan is really shameless. How could she tattle on me? Then she tried to argue. Teacher, you can't be biased. If she hadn't upset me, I wouldn't have. The homeroom teacher coldly snapped. If she makes you sad, you just get sad. Are you her emotional trash can? Are you worthless? Luri, and's face turned ugly, filled with anger but not daring to speak out. The homeroom teacher, however, had no intention of stopping, and turned to Shinzei saying, Stay away from those shady characters. They'll only bring you harm. Shinzei lowered his head while Lurian was on the verge of tears. The two of them were thoroughly lectured by the homeroom teacher before they were allowed to leave. At that moment, I walked toward the office. Are you here to laugh at us? Shinzei's face darkened. Lurian also cursed. How despicable. Who's the one being petty by tattling? I scoffed. A blame shifter. If I were you, I'd have already knelt down and begged for forgiveness. After saying that, I walked into the office, leaving her stomping her feet in anger. When I came out of the office, I overheard their conversation in the hallway. Brother Zay, I'm sorry, Lurian said, sniffling. Shinzei said it didn't matter. It's all Song Chan-chan's fault. I'm completely speechless. Oh, yeah. Nonstick Pan Lurian became happy. Brother Zay, actually repeating a year is quite good. Maybe next time you'll get into Peking University. Much better than Song Chan-chan. I shook my head and walked back to the classroom. And Peking University? You don't even want to let him attend a 985 university. Isn't it 05? June summer vacation is always so hot and refreshing. I'm still at home enjoying the air conditioning and cold drinks while two little ones are about to go back to school. These past few days, Lurian hasn't stopped sending me harassing text messages, wildly flaunting her happiness like a clown. How did you know I went to do tutoring and even traveled? Are you coming? Too. Wait, you still have the college entrance exam. I shot back at her. She was so angry that she didn't respond for a long time. More than half a month after the college entrance exam, before the results were even out. The admission calls from Tsinghua and Peking University had already reached our home. Professional elective courses plus a generous scholarship. Turns out, I scored 725, the top student in the entire province, 2 points higher than the second place, and a full 40 points higher than in my previous life. Sigh. In the end, I still held back my score. Couldn't afford to be too conspicuous soon. The school also got the news and invited me to share my learning experience with the junior students in their final year of high school. Naturally, I didn't refuse and set off to go yesterday. The final year students had already started their supplementary classes. Yes, it's that intense. Returning to campus felt so familiar yet distant. It seemed like just yesterday I was still attending classes, but from now on, I would rarely come back. Of course, those two still have to stay for another year. Just as I was thinking about it, I ran into them heading to the office. Lurian held onto Chin's arm. Why have you come back? Chin sneered. Did you come back to repeat a year and try to win? Me back? Stop daydreaming. Lurian immediately asserted her claim. We're having sweet love every day. Don't disturb us. I was about to ignore her when the teacher's stern rebuke came from nearby. Are you here to retake your exams or to fall in love? If you're here to fall in love, go home. Lurian's face turned pale, and the next second she shouted at me. You actually tattled on me. You're so shameless. Enough. I'm not deaf or blind. Do I need someone to tattle on me? The homeroom teacher shouted angrily. Go back and write an 800-word self-criticism. Teacher, aren't we here to listen to learning experiences? Chins changed the subject. Lurian obediently admitted her mistake. Teacher, I was wrong. Let's talk about studying instead. You can't even be a decent person. So what's the point of studying? The homeroom teacher wasn't going to let it go. Apologized to Chan-chan. Lurian gritted her teeth, her eyes reddening. I'm not wrong. Why should I apologize? She's just jealous of me. And Brother Zay. The homeroom teacher looked utterly exasperated. I gave you a chance, but you couldn't seize it. Go back. Chins quickly asked. What about the experience? The homeroom teacher scolded. What experience? It's not for you anymore. I originally thought that since you're classmates and grew up together, I'd let Chan give you some extra guidance and share the study experience of a top scorer in the college entrance exam. Looks like you don't have a fortune for this. What? The top scorer in the college entrance exam? Impossible. Chin's eyes widened in disbelief. He can't accept it. Lu Rian was also stunned, hugging Chin's eye tighter and retorting stubbornly. So what if you're the top scorer in the college entrance exam? Your character is still terrible. Chin's eye didn't respond to her anymore. The homeroom teacher didn't bother to explain, glancing at him coldly. You'd better watch your own behavior. How could you have such poor judgment? Then she led me into the office. Brother Zai, the teacher scolded me. Lu Rian tried, shaking Chin Zai's arm, but he didn't respond, his face dark as he muttered under his breath. Top scholar. 10 minutes later, all senior high school students gathered on the playground, where a banner reading 2025 Top Scorer Experience sharing had already been hung above the stage. Most students were excited, but 2 of them were absent-minded. Chin Zai looked gloomy, lost in thought. Lu Rian, on the other hand, was very anxious. She tried to get a response from Chin Zai, but failed, and her resentful gaze toward me intensified. After the applause ended, the school rewarded me with 100,000 yuan, and the teachers received rewards, too. Everyone suddenly took pride in me. Just as I was about to head home, a roadblock appeared ahead. Can we go back to how things were? I was wrong. Chin Zai pleaded. I smiled, raising an eyebrow. Don't you find it ridiculous? You kicked me, called me an animal, and now you apologize and expect me to return. Then wouldn't I really be an animal? Chin Zai, however, did not give up and moved closer to me. It was all Lu Rian who bewitched me. Let's make up. Okay, I'll break up with her. I was stunned and sneered. You really have no shame. Lu Rian loves you so much. Wouldn't she be furious if she heard this? So what? A poor student like her is simply not worthy of me, Chin Zai said without hesitation. Brother Zai, you Lu Rian's voice came from behind him. Her face was filled with disbelief, tears streaming down her cheeks. You what you? If it weren't for you, would I have lost Chan? You beast. Chin Zai's eyes were red, his voice hoarse with rage. We could have gone to Beijing together. It's all your fault. You were late. You insisted on making me stay up late. How can you blame Chan? Get out. Get away from me. Lu Rian trembled all over, her face filled with despair and heartbreak. Yet, she glared at me. Sun Chan, I hate you. Damn. What kind of twisted logic is that? But I'm really afraid she'll jump and then blame it on me in the end. I even yelled at Chin Zai. You useless piece of trash. Do you think you're worthy of me? Get out. Get the hell away from here. Chin Zai was stunned, his expression turning ugly, still wanting to hold me back. But I walked away without looking back. When you believe that Lu Rian conspired to frame me, there was no longer any possibility for us. Seeing no hope, Chin Zai flew into a rage out of humiliation. So, what if you're the top scholar? I'll take the exam next year, too. After cursing, he went back to the classroom. Lu Rian silently followed behind. I couldn't help but feel a bit of anticipation. Just now, Chin Zai's furious expression was exactly the same as when he cursed me after losing Lu Rian in my previous life. I couldn't help but think that perhaps in my past life, Chin Zai's madness wasn't solely due to losing Lu Rian, but also because he was inherently like this. He was a madman at heart. Things are getting interesting. 6 o'clock in the evening, my tutor came back and happened to meet them at the entrance of the neighborhood. Just as they were returning, Chin Zai begged Lu Rian for forgiveness. Rian, I was wrong. I shouldn't have been so harsh with you. I just couldn't accept that Sun Chan, that bastard, became the top scholar. Please forgive me. Okay. No. It's my fault. I'm the one who caused you to lose Chan. It's me. I deserve to die. To die. Lu Rian frantically poured out her grievances, embraced tightly by Chin Zai. What a great performance. I felt utterly contemptuous. If you can forgive betrayal, You're just asking for your own destruction. That evening, I received a harassing message from Lu Rian. You'll never get Brother Zai in your lifetime. He said he only loves me. He was just trying to fool you this morning. You didn't actually believe him, did you? What kind of trash is Qin Zi? Is he from Tsinghua or Peking University? Don't tell me. Someone's actually bragging about him. I shot back. Stop being so stubborn. You two used to be so in love. I know you're angry, but there's nothing you can do. Who made Brother Z fall in love with me? Lu Rain was very pleased with herself. Then guess what he would do if I changed my mind now? I smiled. She stopped gloating. It wasn't until midnight that she couldn't hold back any longer. Try it, she good said. He loves me so much. She also sent a selfie of herself with Qin Zi's arm around her neck. And I instinctively felt fear. Bad memories flooding back. Isn't this abuse? Is she showing this off? 2. I felt sorry for her for a moment. Why aren't you saying anything? Are you dying of jealousy? Lu Rain was still gloating. Little did she know that her doom had already begun. I ignored her after that. A few days later, I ran into her at the entrance of the neighborhood. She was dressed warmly, but had a smug look on her face. What? Wanna come with us to the hotel? I laughed. The neighborhood isn't yours. Wearing so much in the middle of summer. I caught a glimpse of the bruises on her neck. Lu Rain smiled even more happily, taking off her jacket to reveal a tank top underneath. I saw bruises all over her arms, collarbone, and abdomen. Jealousy? This is all proof of Z's love for me. We can never be apart again. You got no chance. She was like a child who had snatched a beloved toy, gloating. She really doesn't know how to feel pain. I felt a chill just watching her. Just as I was about to speak, I heard, still not going back to get your things. Why are you talking so much to this friend-abandoning person? A scoff from Qin Zi came from behind her, his words filled with dissatisfaction. Lu Rain trembled slightly, then immediately ran home after agreeing. I shook my head to leave, but suddenly felt as if a poisonous snake was staring at me from behind. I'll come find you in Beijing next year. I stiffened and quickened my pace. Find an M in September. I embarked on my journey to Tsinghua University's School of Computer Science, carrying the 100,000 yuan from the school, 300,000 yuan from the municipal government, and 200,000 yuan in scholarships from my family. Oh, the government also gave me an apartment, but I didn't take it with me. And what about Lu Rian? When I saw her a few days ago, she had become visibly nervous with bruises on her body that couldn't even be hidden by thick clothes. She kept glancing around nervously, her mind clearly on edge. When she saw me, she jumped in fright and asked if I was some kind of perverted stalker. Before I could answer, she panicked and ran away. How pitiful! It seems Chun Zhe has started his sickening revenge. After starting college, I occasionally heard my mother mention Lu Rian, saying she had gone completely mad, a bit of a fool. During the winter break, when I returned home for the new year, I saw her, and she immediately slipped away. She never even went out. Winter comes, summer goes. During the summer vacation of my freshman year, just a few days before the college entrance exam, I saw her in the neighborhood. She's already half neurotic, as if she could go crazy at any moment. On the evening of June 6th, I was taking a walk in the neighborhood when I heard her crying in the darkness. Zay, can you stay with me a little longer? I'm so scared. Lu Rian clung tightly to Qin Zhe's sleeve, crying. He said gently, "It's okay." He wouldn't dare to act recklessly at home. Besides, your parents are home, too. Be good. I still have the college entrance exam tomorrow. But Lu Rian wanted to persuade him to stay. But Chun Zhe interrupted her. I can't lose again. I must get into Tsinghua or Peking University. Lu Rian's eyes darkened, and after a long while, she forced a smile and said, "All right, good luck." At 8:30 the next morning, Lu Rian and Qin Zhe took a taxi to the exam venue. I was wondering why it was going so smoothly, so I followed them and saw Lu Rian open a bottle of milk at the school gate. She took a sip and then handed it to Qin Zhe. "Cheers, Zhe. Wishing you success in the exam." Qin Zhe smiled, took the bottle, and drank it all in one go. I saw the upward curve of Lu Rian's lips, and I couldn't help but let my own lips slowly curl up as well. Something's fishy. Chunza! Oh, Chunza! Your retribution has arrived. At 7 o'clock, I went to play nearby until the exam was over, then waited at the school gate. Not long after, they came out. I didn't know there was something wrong with that milk. I drank it, too. I also had diarrhea, and failed the exam. If you want to hit someone, hit me. Lurian tightly gripped Chinza's hand, refusing to let go, her face pale, eyes red, looking pitiful and aggrieved. Slap! She screamed as she was slapped heavily to the ground, covering her cheek, her eyes filled with disbelief, as if looking at a stranger. Your mother. You bastard. You did it on purpose. Damn it. Chinza roared hysterically, still pretending to be a naive green tea. WCNM. Lurian's face was filled with fear, suddenly breaking down, clutching tightly to Chinza's leg, crying loudly, I just want you to stay with me. What's wrong with that? That lunatic will kill me. What am I supposed to do if you leave me? You still want to go find that Song Chan. She was in agony. I won't accept it. You've played with me for so long. You can't abandon me. Woohoo! Let's go into the factory together. After all, graduating from university doesn't really. She was slapped to the ground again. I'm a 985 university graduate going into an M factory, Chinza said coldly, his movement swift, precise, and ruthless. Are you crazy? Her face was already bruised from the blows. Lurian screamed frantically. I've already gone mad. That lunatic is driving me insane. You bastard. Why won't you let me call the police? Chinza was stunned by her words. He stepped forward and embraced Lurian. It's okay. It's okay. I'm here. Woohoo. Can we go work in the factory? If we go to the factory, we can get away from that madman. I'm going crazy. Lurian looked up, tears streaming down her face. Chinza sighed and nodded in agreement. She wept with overwhelming joy. I saw the cold, curling corner of his lips. Something big was coming. That afternoon, they packed their bags and headed to Guangdong to work, skipping the college entrance exams altogether. A week later, Chinza brought back a madwoman. Lurian. I don't know either. Her condition suddenly worsened, and she even slashed me with a knife. He looked dejected, showing the wound on his arm. Seeing this, Lurian's parents didn't pursue any blame. After all, their daughter had already shown symptoms, and they were also afraid of having to pay compensation. Within a few days, Chinza was taken away by the police for investigation. Someone anonymously reported that he had been intimidating a girl for nearly a year, and had sent her to a psychiatric hospital. The details of the report are extremely thorough. The police acted quickly, searching under Chinza's bed, and finding a large number of tools used in the crimes, even discovering a diary inside. It meticulously recorded all his criminal methods and his pathological mindset. The police also learned about Lurian's situation. When she saw Chinza, her face was filled with fear, and her first reaction was to hide. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Chinza had no choice but to confess, due to the cruelty of his methods and the immense psychological trauma inflicted on the victim. He was convicted of intentional injury and ultimately sentenced to 10 years in prison. On the day he was imprisoned, the sun was shining brightly, coinciding with the start of the school year. I boarded the high-speed train heading toward a brighter tomorrow. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comment section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. I used a rock to smash the car window and save my uncle who had driven into the river. But my uncle blamed me for accidentally scratching his car body while breaking the window, and demanded that my family compensate him with $200,000 for the repair. My grandmother was even more shocking with her words. You could have just opened the door to escape. Who told you to be so reckless? And smash the window. I think your family should just buy your uncle a new car. My mom immediately retorted to my uncle. If it weren't for Judy saving you, by the time you drowned, forget about $200,000. We could burn hundreds of cars for you. After his claim was denied, my uncle flew into a rage out of humiliation and drove a truck, crashing my family and our car into the river. If you won't pay, then I'll let you experience what it feels like to have your car destroyed. My parents died tragically, and I was in the hospital receiving emergency treatment. But my grandmother gave all my life-saving money to my uncle. Even if your parents are dead, the car that needs to be compensated still has to be paid for. While I passed away with resentment on my hospital bed, my uncle happily picked up his new car at the Ford dealership, opening my eyes again. I faced the car rapidly sinking in the river this time. I want to see how my unconscious uncle will manage to open the car door and escape. I was awakened by the loud noise of my uncle driving the car into the river. As soon as I opened my eyes, I saw the car plunging into the center of the river. The river water was devouring my uncle's car at an astonishing rate, and the water seeping into the cabin had already flooded most of the seats in an instant. Yet, even with his legs submerged in the water, my uncle in the driver's seat remained motionless, slumped over the airbag. Without rescue, my unconscious uncle would sink to the river bed along with the car within 5 minutes. In my previous life, when I saw this situation, I didn't hesitate to pick up a stone from the bridge and throw it at the window of the submerged car, because I knew that once a vehicle falls into water, the windows and doors become impossible to open, and to escape, one must shatter the window immediately. But I never expected that this common-sense action would bring catastrophic disaster to my family of 3. After my uncle successfully escaped through the window I had broken, he didn't say a single word of thanks. Instead, he blamed me for not aiming properly while breaking the window, leaving 3 coin-sized shallow dents on his car body. I explained to him that the car was drifting in the river, which caused me to accidentally hit the body, but he just wouldn't let it go, and even demanded compensation from my parents for the car repairs. This brand new BMW I just bought was smashed by your daughter. Even brothers keep clear accounts. You owe me 200,000. My parents said that this was my uncle repaying kindness with enmity, but my uncle believed that even without me, he would have been rescued. There are so many ways to escape. Who said you have to go through the car window? Maybe someone would have saved me without even needing to break the window. But your daughter just had to be clever and ruin my car window, making me spend an extra $10,000 to fix it. I've already been more than fair. Otherwise, you have to pay for the window, too. Hearing that fixing the window would cost my uncle extra money, my grandmother started scolding me. You stupid girl. You just couldn't keep your hands to yourself. You could have escaped by opening the door. Who told you to break the car window? Then, Grandma demanded that my mom compensate my uncle with a new car. Your brother's perfectly good car was smashed to pieces by your daughter. If you dare not pay for it, I'll disown you from now on. In the past, my mother had always catered to my uncle and Grandma's every demand. But this time, seeing their increasingly unreasonable requests, my mother had a sudden awakening and firmly refused to pay the compensation. Judy didn't do anything wrong, and we won't pay a single cent for this. After the claim was rejected, my uncle locked the main door and planned to take the money by force. This behavior completely infuriated my parents, so they warned my uncle to let us go immediately. Otherwise, they would report him for drunk driving that led to the car plunging into the river. And they would also sue him to reclaim the over $100,000 he had borrowed from our family over the years. Only when my parents threatened to call the police did my uncle reluctantly let us leave. But as soon as we drove onto the nearby bridge, my uncle chased after us in his truck and rammed our car, flipping it into the river. If you won't pay, fine. Then I'll let you experience what it feels like to have your car destroyed. My parents drowned on the spot, while I suffered severe brain damage and was rushed to the ICU for emergency treatment upon hearing the news. Friends of my parents in the company urgently sent money to the hospital. My grandmother promised them that they would do everything to save me, but then turned around and signed a do not resuscitate order. She gave all the money to my uncle to buy a car, had my parents cremated, and falsely claimed to others that they had died in a car accident while driving drunk while I was in agony on the hospital bed. My grandmother was comforting my uncle by my side. Don't blame yourself. Their deaths have nothing to do with you. If anyone is to blame, it's them for their own wrongdoing. Look, both of you drove into the river, but you came out completely unharmed while their entire family died. Isn't that karma? What a perfect example of karma. Thinking of this, I clenched my fists tightly. I hoped that in this lifetime, when my grandmother sees my uncle's body, she can still casually call it karma. The loud noise of the car plunging into the river naturally caught the attention of the villagers. However, it wasn't until nearly a minute had passed that someone cautiously approached the riverbank. Soon after, a few elderly voices could be heard. Did I hear that right? It sounded like a car fell into the water. Let me put on my reading glasses and take a look. Oh my, there really is a car. We need to call the police. Ha! Where did I put my phone? Watching the elderly slowly searching their pockets for their phones, I almost burst out laughing. In the previous life, when my uncle woke up on the shore, the police and fire department had already arrived, which made him think there were plenty of people to rescue him. Little did I know that in my previous life, the reason a child like me ended up smashing the car window to save him was because the first people to arrive at the riverbank were all elderly, and children still in split pants in the village where my grandmother lived. Almost all the young and middle-aged adults had gone to work in other cities, leaving behind a community of elderly people. And children, although there were many of them, most lacked the ability to rescue my uncle. As more and more elderly people and children gathered by the river, I squinted and carefully scanned the crowd. Soon, the person I was waiting for appeared. Grandma nimbly squeezed to the front among the group of elderly ladies, craning her neck to look toward the center of the river. I quickly pricked up my ears, waiting for Grandma's reaction, but I never expected that. After getting a clear look at the car in the river, Grandma would laugh out loud with her hands on her hips. Ha! Serves you right daring to speed through the village. Drown, you bastard. Now I was dumbfounded. The onlookers were also stunned. Jack's mom, how can you say such a thing? Do you have some grudge against the people in that car? Yeah. Do you recognize this car? None of the nearby recognized the car in the river. I immediately remembered that in my previous life, my uncle had always said this was his newly purchased BMW. At the time, I thought he had just bought it, but now it seems this was the first time my uncle drove this car back to the village. So much so that even Grandma, his own mother, didn't know that the car in the river belonged to her son. Grandma angrily told the villagers, I don't know him, but this car almost hit me on the road earlier. If I hadn't dodged quickly, I wouldn't be here talking to you now. Grandma pointed at her body. Look at this. To avoid him, I even rolled on the ground. Just look at what happened to my clothes. When Grandma went out, she was wearing the new clothes my mom brought back today. It was originally a light blue outer garment, but now it's covered in mud, and at first glance, it almost looks brown. Looking at Grandma's clothes, I slapped my forehead as I remembered something else. In his previous life, after regaining consciousness, my uncle had even said he wanted to settle the score with an old lady in blue clothes. He claimed that the reason he drove into the river was entirely because the old lady suddenly darted in front of his car just as he was about to pass, startling him and causing him to lose control, which led to the car plunging into the river. Who would have thought? Truly, who would have thought? It turns out the person my uncle almost hit was my grandmother. In my previous life, I was so focused on saving people that I completely missed the exciting scene on the shore. I'm growing more and more curious about what expression Grandma will have when she sees that the person in the car is my uncle for some reason. Even after hearing about such a big incident like Grandma almost being hit by a car, none of the elderly bystanders responded to her. Another minute or so passed in the blink of an eye. The children ran around for a long time before finally calling out two middle-aged men. As soon as they saw the car in the river, they immediately started discussing how to rescue it and asked the elderly for advice. Has anyone called the police? We need to call them now. Quick! Take a photo and send it to the village group chat so everyone can identify whose car this is. Hurry! And call their family members. Does anyone have a suitable tool? We need to smash the car window first. Seeing someone take charge, the elderly finally felt a sense of direction and began to cooperate. Some took photos, others made phone calls, and a few even leaned on their canes to go home and rummage through their belongings. Seeing the villagers ignore her while treating someone else's words as gospel, Grandma felt quite displeased and began seeking attention. What's the rush? Once the body is retrieved, it won't be too late for the family to identify it. My grandmother's tongue is usually sharp, but now she's really cursing up a storm. Because she was almost hit, Jack's mother. The person isn't even dead yet. Watch your mouth. And show some decency. Yeah. They're already going to help. My grandmother got worked up and started arguing with everyone. Driving like that, even if he doesn't drown today, he's bound to get into another accident sooner or later. This time he didn't hit me. But what if he hits someone else in the future? Aren't you just saving a murderer? I don't know how others felt when they heard this, but it sent chills down my spine. However, the villagers were all much busier than I, a mere spectator, and they had no time to argue with my grandmother. The two middle-aged men had already stripped naked and jumped into the water, while the elderly handed them the items they had gathered. Check out this window-smashing technique. Here are the swimming rings. Take them. It's safer. In the bustling crowd, only Grandma and I were equally idle. She plopped down on a stone bench by the shore, crossed her legs, and started throwing cold water on those getting into the water. Hey, you guys really aren't afraid of dying. Huh? So many people have drowned in this river, and you still dare to go in. Aren't you afraid that not only will you fail to save anyone, but you'll also get dragged down as a replacement? This statement made the few middle schoolers who had wanted to jump in and help hesitate a little. After all, the river was fast-flowing, and sometimes there were whirlpools that could pull a person under and never let them resurface. Moreover, it was currently the 7th month of the lunar calendar. The mention of grabbing a replacement made the superstitious elders even more reluctant to let their grandchildren enter the river. Go. Let's go home. This isn't something you can jump in and save. Seeing that Grandma was causing such a commotion that people were hesitant to help, Grandma Linda from the east end of the village couldn't hold back any longer. Can you just stop talking? This is a human life we're talking about. Are we just going to stand by and watch him drown? Your Jack drives, too. You know, what if he were in this situation? Would you want everyone to just stand by and do nothing? Hearing this, Grandma was so agitated she jumped 3 feet high, rushed forward, and grabbed Grandma Linda by the hair. Old hag, how dare you curse my Jack to drown? Don't you believe I'll throw you into the river right now? That elderly woman, Linda, is the mother of one of the middle-aged man who had just entered the water. He had already swam 2 m away, but when he heard the shouting behind him, he turned around and saw the grandmother grabbing his mother and pushing her toward the water. He had no choice but to quickly turn back and return to the shore, seeing those who had entered the water come back ashore. Others who had been considering going in also stopped what they were doing. What's wrong? Is there something in the water? At this, the collective determination to rescue the person waned significantly. When everyone was united in the effort to save someone, it was that very spirit of unity that enabled them to work together. In my previous life, when I threw stones from the bridge, the people on the shore also witnessed it. At that time, many people were cheering me on with shouts and encouragements blending together, creating an incredibly uplifting force. When people saw a child putting in so much effort to save someone, the adults felt even more compelled not to fall behind, and they all focused intently on swimming toward my uncle's car, especially when they saw me break the car window, and my uncle jerked away from his unconscious state, escaped the vehicle. They accelerated their swimming to reach the car and catch my uncle, who couldn't swim after all. When a living being right before your eyes needs help, there's hardly any time to hesitate. But at this moment, without me leading the way to smash the car window, and with my grandmother spreading panic, my uncle remained lying motionless in the car. Many people began to lose their nerve. I think this person might already be dead. Maybe we shouldn't go over there. Others said fearfully, there's a dark figure in the river. Seeing the scene, I felt like applauding my grandmother. I had already started planning what I would do to stop them if they really started swimming faster. But now, it seems the last bit of hope for my uncle has been mostly blocked by my grandmother. Looking down again, the water inside the BMW had already risen to my uncle's waist. Most of the front of the car was submerged in the water, and the rear end was tilting higher and higher, resembling the stern of the Titanic as it sank. But on the shore, my grandmother was still completely unaware that her son was about to meet his end. Still arguing with someone, her finger poking at Linda's grandmother's son's face. Just try to lay a finger on me. When my Jack gets here, he'll make you regret it. My uncle in the village often idles around, stealing chickens and teasing dogs, the kind of troublemaker who isn't intimidating, but becomes a real nuisance once you cross paths with him. So, when she heard my uncle's name, Grandma Linda still felt a bit scared, but before she could pull her son back, she was suddenly pushed from behind by a child, causing her to fall and land on the ground. "You old hag, how dare you argue with my grandma? Just wait until my dad gets here. He'll run you over with his big BMW." The owner of the little black hand is my uncle's son, Harry. After pushing Grandma Linda, he darted behind my grandmother like a streak of smoke. Grandma's eyes lit up when she saw her grandson. "Good grandson. What did you just say? What did your dad drive back?" Harry said proudly and loudly, "Grandma, a BMW. My dad called and said he's driving a BMW around the village looking for you. He wants to pick you up and take you for a ride in the BMW." Grandma was overjoyed. "You old hag, you are cursing my son with misfortune. But you didn't expect this. My son is driving a BMW now. Jealous, envious, you and your useless son will never get to ride in a BMW in this lifetime." After saying that, Grandma pulled Harry along with a carefree air. "Come on, my dear grandson. Let's go wait for your dad on the other side of the road. We should stay away from these people to avoid catching any bad luck." Meanwhile, the only middle-aged man still in the river swam closer to the car. After getting a clearer look at the car's appearance, he shouted toward the shore, "This is a BMW X1. People on the shore were discussing. "A BMW? I haven't heard of anyone in our village owning a BMW." Someone quietly reminded them. "Didn't Diana's grandson just say his dad came back driving a BMW?" Hearing this, Grandma paused her steps as she was about to leave. Uncle's son, Harry, also noticed something was wrong. "Grandma, Dad isn't answering the phone." Harry was swiping left and right on his phone when suddenly, as if he had seen something terrifying, his hands went slack, and the phone clattered to the ground. The phone screen cracked with a sharp sound. But Harry, who had always been so careful with his phone, remained frozen in place, only repeating the same words over and over. "Grandma, Grandma, the BMW, the BMW, Dad's BMW." Grandma grabbed Harry by the shoulders. "Good grandson, what's wrong with you?" Harry stammered as he spoke. "On the phone. Dad's car. It's the same as the one in the river." Hearing this, Grandma swiftly snatched the phone from the ground like an eagle grabbing its prey. It clearly showed my uncle's latest WeChat Moments post. It was a 9-grid WeChat Moments post with the caption, "New car on the road, smooth sailing all the way." The photos captured the BMW X1 from 8 different angles, with the center image being a group photo of my uncle and the BMW. As Grandma flipped through the pictures of the BMW, her hands trembled more and more. While Grandma was staring blankly, Harry took 2 frantic steps toward the river, tripped over a stone midway, and fell to his knees on the ground. When he looked up again, his face was covered in tears. "Dad, get up quickly. Dad." The next moment, I didn't even catch a glimpse of him, only heard a loud splash. When I opened my eyes again, Grandma was in the river. Grandma struggled frantically in the murky water, screaming at the top of her lungs, "My son! My son!" Seeing this, the elderly people nearby had no choice but to instruct their grandsons to quickly jump into the water and pull Grandma back. 2 older blondies had no choice but to reluctantly jump into the water and grab hold of Grandma. The elderly on the shore were also trying to persuade her. "No, no, at your age, you can't swim that far." But Grandma slapped each of the young blondies. "Why are you pulling me? Go save my son. You're all stronger than this old woman. Go rescue him." As she spoke, Grandma even gave the dazed blonde-haired boy a shove toward the deeper water. "What are you standing there for? If you don't save him, you'll be thrown into a boiling oil cauldron in the underworld." The area near the shore was already slippery, and with Grandma's push, the 2 blonde-haired boys slid right into the deep water. A blonde guy clearly couldn't swim. As soon as his feet couldn't touch the bottom, his body bobbed up and down in the water, and he immediately swallowed several mouthfuls of water. Fortunately, someone nearby acted quickly and pulled him back to the shallow area as soon as he was out of danger. The punk-style blonde guy stormed over toward his grandmother with a dark expression. Damn old lady. I can't even swim. What the hell was I thinking trying to save you? You're trying to get me killed. Aren't you? Just now you said not to let anyone save him. But now that you realize it's your son, you want someone to risk their life to save him. I think you're like someone taking off their pants to hang themselves. Utterly shameless. I have to make you experience what it feels like to choke on water. 2. With that, the little punk made a move as if he was about to push Grandma into the water. Terrified, Grandma started screaming and scrambling, leaping back onto the shore like a monkey. Seeing that the punk was not someone to mess with, Grandma had no choice but to find someone else to save Uncle. Her eyes scanned the shore. The young were too young, the old were too old, and those of suitable age were all skin and bones. They couldn't save anyone. Even pulling someone up would be a struggle. In the end, Grandma turned her gaze back to Linda's son. Bob, you know how to swim. Please, go save my son. I usually call Grandma Linda's son Uncle Bob. If I remember correctly, it was Uncle Bob who finally brought my uncle to the shore in my previous life. Uncle Bob is a skilled swimmer and well-versed in rescue techniques. In my previous life, when my uncle, who couldn't swim, was pushing another person underwater, it was Uncle Bob who promptly knocked him unconscious to defuse the crisis and successfully brought him back to the shore. But Uncle Bob is clearly angry now. A loser like me wouldn't dare touch your son's precious BMW. This comeback made Grandma's face turn purple with rage. Grandma reacted quickly and immediately turned to Grandma Linda, who has always been kind-hearted. Old sister, I was out of my mind just now. I apologize. All right, please ask your Bob to save my son. Aren't you always the kindest person? Harry also clung to Grandma Linda's leg. Please, save my dad. I was wrong. I shouldn't have pushed you earlier. Upon learning that the person in danger in the river was her brother, Grandma Linda lost her earlier decisiveness. She opened her mouth to ask her grandmother, "Can you promise not to cause trouble at my house afterward? That is, regardless of whether my son saves your son today or not. You cannot use any reason to come and bother my family." I found it a bit strange that Grandma Linda suddenly asked this, but I didn't have time to think it through. Grandma immediately agreed to Grandma Linda's request and even raised 3 fingers. "I swear I will never cause trouble for your family." Again, having received the assurance, Grandma Linda then said to Uncle Bob, "Go ahead and give it a try. Do your best, and no matter what happens, we'll have a clear conscience." Watching Uncle Bob jump into the water, Grandma started bossing people around again from the shore. "Hurry up and get some towels ready. Be careful not to let my son catch a cold when he comes ashore later." Grandma was clearly being too optimistic about the current situation. After the delay just now, the front of my uncle's car was completely submerged, with only the rear half still above water. From the bridge, I could still see my uncle through the sunroof, the water already reaching his chest. The middle-aged man who had entered the water earlier finally broke through the rapids and successfully swam to his uncle's car. But the awkward part was that this person hadn't brought any tools originally. He had swam to the car first to assess the situation, waiting for Uncle Bob to find the right tools and bring them over. However, when he arrived and looked back, he realized there was no one behind him anymore. Empty-handed, he had no choice but to slap the car window in an attempt to wake his uncle inside. Perhaps it was the sound of the glass being slapped, combined with the discomfort of the water rising to his chest. Uncle woke up. I first saw his back move, and then my uncle abruptly lifted his body from the steering wheel. As soon as he regained consciousness, Uncle nervously looked around, resembling Jackie Chan searching for an escape route in a kung fu movie. Realizing he was in the water, Uncle first slapped himself twice across the face as if to confirm whether he was dreaming. The people outside the car immediately shouted toward the shore as soon as they saw Uncle wake up. "He's not dead. Hurry up. Otherwise, it'll be too late. Bring something to break it or smash the glass." More people gathered on the shore, as if someone had called the village chief. Under the village chief's arrangement, 2 more people went into the water from the shore, while Uncle Bob, who had already been in the water, swam even faster. Who wouldn't be scared to wake up and find the water has risen to their chest in a panic? My uncle tried to move without even unfastening his seatbelt. As a result, he was jerked back into his seat by the restraint. For a while, the car had stopped moving altogether. I guess that the wheels might have gotten stuck in the rocks at the bottom of the river, which stabilized the car. But, as my uncle moved, the entire car shifted, and the previously halted descent continued. As soon as he unbuckled the seatbelt, my uncle frantically tried to open the car door. He realized the door on his side wouldn't open. Without understanding why it wouldn't open, my uncle swam to the other side and attempted to open the door again. Seeing the few actions my uncle took upon waking up, another weight lifted from my heart. After all, in the previous life, in order to make my parents pay compensation, my uncle had confidently claimed that he was very knowledgeable about how to escape from a car that had plunged into a river. When my parents argued with my grandmother that escaping wasn't as simple as just opening the car door, my uncle even flaunted his knowledge. Once the car cabin is filled with water, and the water pressure inside and outside equalizes, won't the door open easily? And at that point, escaping won't cause any additional damage to the car. To be honest, if your daughter hadn't smashed the car window, I would have waited until the cabin was completely filled with water before escaping, because I simply disdain such a low-level escape method as crawling through a window. Although what my uncle said sounded as if his brain had been squeezed by a door. But there was one key point in his words. It's possible that my uncle actually knows how to escape properly. However, seeing him frantically trying to open the car door now suggests that he has no idea the door is stuck due to water pressure. That would mean that in the previous life, all those things he said were just after-the-fact excuses he hastily made up after cramming survival knowledge once he made it ashore. Just as I was inwardly complaining, my uncle was once again trying to roll down the car window with the button. Once the vehicle is flooded, both the windows and the sunroof will become unusable due to power failure. After realizing he couldn't roll down the window, a visible panic spread across my uncle's face. He had no choice but to repeatedly tap on the glass, trying to speak to the person outside the car window. Realizing that the person couldn't hear him clearly, Uncle suddenly looked up toward the sunroof. I, who had been watching Uncle through the sunroof the whole time, didn't even have a chance to lower the corner of my mouth before our eyes met bright and clear. As soon as Uncle saw me, he pressed his face against the sunroof. He was pointing his finger at me as if trying to express something. I was confused. Uncle then clenched his hand into a fist and began pounding it against the skylight. His mouth seemed to be forming the word rock. I understood instantly. He had already told me he was going to throw rock. Then I definitely can't throw scissors. I extended 2 papers and waved at my uncle. 2 papers. I got you beat. Men really are boys until they die. What time is it now? And you still want to play rock? Paper. Scissors with me? But soon I couldn't laugh anymore. Uncle Bob was indeed faster than most people. In the blink of an eye, he swam to the car, clutching a fairly large stone in his hand. If he managed to smash the window with that stone, there might be a chance for my uncle to survive. But as someone who had returned for revenge, how could I just stand by and watch my uncle be rescued? I pretended to suddenly understand my uncle's meaning, picked up a stone from the bridge, and threw it toward the river. Of course, I missed. I didn't even come close to the car, and I startled Uncle Bob so much that he nearly threw the stone into the river himself. Seeing this, my uncle in the car was furiously helpless. I could tell exactly what he was cursing me for just by watching his little mouth open and close. It was nothing more than, "Are you an idiot? Or is there something wrong with your hands? Maybe you should go see a doctor. You can't even throw a stone straight." I knew this so well, because in my previous life, when my uncle saw me miss the target, that's exactly how he scolded me. Remember, when someone says there's a problem with your hands, you'd better do something that actually shows there's a problem with your hands. I pretended to be sorry, and picked up several more stones, throwing them into the river. But this time was much better than the last. I just barely grazed the car window. However, I used very little force, and chose small stones, so I didn't cause any damage to the window at all. "Uncle, I'm sorry. This piece of glass costs 10,000. It's just too precious. I really can't bring myself to break it, and glass lives matter. too. But, at this moment, someone still wanted to save my uncle's life amid the undulating water. As soon as Uncle Bob steadied himself, he grabbed a stone and hurled it at the only rear car window still above the surface. Fortunately, as a wave passed, Uncle Bob's strike also missed this time. It left a dent on the rear compartment 3 times larger than the one in my previous life. I couldn't help but worry that if my uncle survived, his target for extortion would likely shift to Uncle Bob's family. In that case, it's even more crucial not to let my uncle survive. Next, I pretended to redouble my efforts to smash the window, even leaning so far out that almost half of my body was over the edge of the bridge. Since throwing stones also required force, I immediately lost my balance, swaying back and forth several times, looking as though I was about to fall from the bridge into the river. Seeing this, the 2 people by the car forgot about the vehicle and shouted warnings at me, while the people on the shore also gasped in alarm. Go back! Go back! Get back on the bridge! But I can't go back. From the moment I was reborn, I made up my mind that I must not let my uncle leave his car alive. Since I've been reborn, I am not here to respect the fate of others. If I don't see all my enemies disappear, I would be ungrateful for the chance of rebirth given to me by heaven. So, now, to prevent Uncle Bob from saving my uncle, I have to make him save someone else. For example, save me. Amid the exclamations of the crowd, I fell from the bridge. As I fell, through the last crack in the car window, I saw my uncle's nearly desperate face. He used everything he could find in the car to try and smash the window, but the window remained stubbornly intact. I suppose the car window must have realized that such a low-end escape method simply didn't match the high-class person my uncle was. Just as a rushing river water flooding the car cabin swallowed my uncle's head, I too fell into the turbulent river with a splash. As soon as I surfaced, I screamed and flailed about, pretending to be completely unable to swim. After shouting a few times, I feigned choking on water and losing consciousness, ceasing all movement of my limbs, and allowing my body to drift away with the current under the force of the water. I was swept several meters away in an instant. Looking back, my uncle's car had already sunk with only the roof still above the water. Faced with 2 lives in critical need of rescue, Uncle Bob and the kind-hearted stranger had to make a choice. Based on the level of difficulty, one is a person who requires great effort to save, and success is not guaranteed. The other is someone who can be saved just by swimming over. The choice of whom to save is already obvious. Moreover, fundamentally speaking, one is a good child who fell into the river to save someone. The other is a middle-aged man-child who drove drunk and fell into the river. Who would you save? The outcome was no surprise to anyone. Uncle Bob and the kind-hearted person both swam in my direction. Although I pretended to be unconscious, I remained vigilant, observing the surroundings. A group of villagers ran to the spot on the bridge where I had just been standing in my previous life. When they saw me throwing stones, some villagers also ran over, wanting to help smash the car window. However, the elderly were slow on their feet, and by the time they arrived, I had already shattered the window, so I didn't need their help. The current situation is much the same as in the previous life. They still can't be of much help. Only the roof of my uncle's car remained above the water. The roof was made of sheet metal, and no matter how many people tried to smash the car, it was all in vain. But strangely, I still heard the sound of stones hitting the water. This was followed by the shouts of the villagers. Jack's mother, "You can't smash open the car roof. Stop hitting it. Be careful not to hit the people in the river again." I suddenly understood. It was my grandmother who was hitting the car. Suddenly, several louder exclamations came from the bridge. "Stop her! She's not hitting the car. She's hitting the people. Damn! Are you trying to kill your own grandson?" Before I could finish hearing the words, a loud splash of a stone hitting the water sounded right beside my ear. The sound was too close. I couldn't pretend to be unconscious any longer, and quickly opened my eyes. The moment I opened my eyes, my pupils contracted, and a chill ran through my entire body, because a huge rock was coming straight toward my face. I swam to the side at the fastest speed of my life, barely dodging the rock, but the sudden shock still threw me off balance, causing me to actually choke on water. coughing grotesquely underwater. Along with the pain rising in my lungs came a surge of resentment. I never would have expected that this old woman would actually throw a stone at me, seeing that I had dodged. Grandma shouted from the bridge, "Look at this! This wretched girl wasn't unconscious at all. She was faking it. She even dodged the stone I threw. She's perfectly fine. Don't any of you go save her. Hurry back and save my son." A kind-hearted person shouted back at the grandmother, "You crazy old woman. What do you mean pretending to faint? I was woken up by your rock." Uncle Bob continued to swim toward me with his head down. "Don't be afraid, Judy. Uncle Bob is coming right away." Seeing the two of them not changing direction, Grandma went even crazier. This time, she directly threw a stone at Uncle Bob. Uncle Bob was swimming intently. By the time he heard our shouts and tried to dodge, it was already a bit too late. The stone grazed his back, leaving a long bloody mark. Grandma continued to threaten Uncle Bob, "If you dare swim that way again, I'll smash you to death today. If you don't want to die, turn back and save." Before Grandma could finish her words, she was grabbed by the hair from behind by Grandma Linda and dragged back onto the bridge. "My son may not have achieved great things, but he has worked hard. How dare you throw stones at him? I'll slap your face until it's swollen. Let's see how many layers of skin you have." Amid the sound of slaps, Grandma, pinned to the ground, finally had no more energy to cause trouble. After Uncle Bob rescued me and brought me back to the shore, within 5 minutes, the two people sent into the water by the village chief also returned. Although they successfully swam to their uncle's car with the tools, by then the car had completely sunk underwater. They could only dive underwater to try and smash the windows or open the doors, but underwater visibility was obstructed, and the current's impact was even stronger. The two men dove down several times, but failed to open the doors, and they were nearly swept away by the strong current. Under the struggle, the two of them, exhausted and drained of strength, were eventually rescued and brought back to shore by the firefighters who arrived. Seeing that they not only returned empty-handed, but also delayed the firefighters from rescuing her uncle, their grandmother, in a fit of rage, rushed at the two and began scratching and clawing at them. "Go die! Go die! Useless things! If you couldn't save anyone, why did you even go into the water?" Who wouldn't be furious after narrowly escaping death only to be insulted and beaten by their grandmother? A man used brute force to throw the grandmother directly onto the ground. "Why did I go down there? It was you who begged me to go. I almost lost my life trying to save your son, and now you dare lay a hand on me. Do you believe I'll beat you to death?" The grandmother was already terrified of being beaten. Linda, who had just turned 70, had already left her with disheveled hair and a bleeding mouth. Now, seeing that the man was also about to strike, she immediately scrambled and crawled behind the police to seek protection. "Ah, you're going to beat someone to death. Help, officer." The police made a symbolic attempt to intervene, but most of their attention was still focused on how to retrieve the submerged car. With the coordinated efforts of the police, traffic control, and the fire department, the uncle's car was pulled back to shore half an hour after it had fallen into the water. As soon as the BMW emerged from the water, the grandmother rushed to the car wailing and lamenting uncontrollably. Several police officers pulled my grandmother away, allowing the firefighters to finally open the car door. As soon as the door opened, my uncle spilled out along with the river water. The river water, following the stones along the bank, crawled back into the river, but my uncle lay face down on the ground, motionless, like a stone by the shore. The surrounding villagers watched the scene with grim expressions. Although my uncle was not exactly a good person, the loss of a life is always moving. I saw my uncle's body with my own eyes. Grandma stopped struggling. She seemed to have all the bones in her body instantly pulled out as she slipped from the police officer's grasp and fell to the ground. Her mouth was wide open, but not a single sound came out. She just sat there on the ground, staring blankly at her uncle not far away. In contrast to her grandmother's stillness, her uncle's son, Harry, quickly dashed past the police line and threw himself onto the body. "Dad, wake up! Dad, don't die!" Hearing her grandson's cries, the grandmother came back to life. She quickly walked over to her son's body and grabbed Harry. "This is not your father. Your father hasn't come back yet. No crying. No shouting. Your father is not dead." As she spoke, Grandma pulled Harry off of Uncle's body. "Go home. Come home with me. Your dad will be back tonight." Seeing the scene, my mom, who had rushed back in a hurry, went up and grabbed Grandma. "Mom, brother is already gone. Don't be like this." Grandma, however, glared at my mother with bloodshot eyes. "Shut your filthy mouth. If you say one more word, I'll kill you today." At the mention of killing, Grandma remembered me. She began turning her head left and right in the crowd. "Where is that little Judy? Where is she hiding?" The villagers had just witnessed my grandmother hitting me with a stone. And now, upon hearing that she was looking for me, they all instinctively moved in front of me, trying to hide me more securely. Seeing that her harsh tone couldn't draw me out, my grandmother switched to a gentler one. "Little Judy, where are you hiding? Come out, will you? Aren't you cold from falling into the river earlier? Listen to me, dear. Grandma didn't mean to hit you on purpose." No matter how gentle the voice, it couldn't conceal the overflowing malice. When my grandmother called me like that, it reminded me of the ghosts in horror movies when they pretended to be a child's relative. They used the same tone to lure the child out and kill them. Wait, ghosts pretending to be relatives. Suddenly, an idea came to mind. I had a way to keep my grandmother from bothering me any further. My father couldn't stand my grandmother calling me like that anymore. So, he stepped in front of her. "Why did you call Judy? Does Judy have anything to do with Jack's car accident where he drove into the river? Even the police said it was drunk driving that killed him." But Grandma kept shaking her head. "It wasn't drunk driving. It wasn't drunk driving that killed him. It was your daughter who killed him." As soon as Grandma finished shouting, screams erupted from the crowd. "Judy! Judy! What's wrong with you? Come quickly! Judy's parents! This child is foaming at the mouth. Doctor! Doctor! Come quickly!" The villagers made a path for the doctor to pass through in front of me. Now, Grandma has finally found me. She saw me lying on the ground foaming at the mouth, my whole body convulsing uncontrollably, and my head twisting and turning on the floor. Grandma burst into laughter. "Good, good. Serves you right. You harmed your own uncle. Heaven should strike you down with a bolt of lightning." After shouting, Grandma spread her arms to block the doctor who was about to check on me. At the same time, I suddenly stopped convulsing and lay stiffly on the ground motionless like a corpse. Sometimes, stillness is more frightening than movement, and the people around screamed again. One villager even approached me, reaching out a finger to check if I was breathing. Before he could put his fingers to my nose, I suddenly sat up with my eyes closed. This startled the person checking for breath so much that they jumped back 3 m. My parents rushed over, crouched down, and tried to pull me into their arms. "Judy, don't scare Mom and Dad like that. What's going on?" These successive shocks have set the villagers abuzz with discussion. It looks like it might be that the river just isn't clean. Maybe something latched onto him after he went in. Amid the chatter, I slowly opened my eyes and swept a strange gaze over each person in the crowd. As I watched, my mouth kept opening and closing as I muttered, "Not this one, not this one, not this one. Where's the old lady in blue? Where's the old lady in blue?" To hear what I was saying, Dad pressed his ear right against the side of my face. "Sweetie, speak a little louder. Dad can't really hear you." "What old lady in blue?" Seizing the opportunity, I grabbed my father's arm as if I had just recognized who he was. "Brother-in-law, you have to avenge me. It was an old woman in blue clothes who caused me to drown." After hearing my story, my father froze. I could even feel the goosebumps rising on his arm. The people around us stared curiously. "Judy's dad. What did Judy say?" My father hesitated and looked at the crowd. For some reason, Judy suddenly called me brother-in-law and said that some old lady in blue clothes suddenly jumped in front of the car, which caused him to drive into the river. The villagers widened their eyes. Call your brother-in-law. Could it be that Jack has possessed Judy?" A few people who usually believed in ghosts and spirits immediately started talking to me. "Jack, tell us more clearly. Where did you encounter the old lady? We'll go investigate for you right away." Yes, 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 If you have anything else to say, just say it all. Once you're done, you can go in peace. Judy is young and can't handle all this torment from you. This time, I didn't speak to my father alone. Instead, I raised my voice in a feigned, deep masculine tone and shouted to everyone. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, on the main road at the village entrance, there was an old woman wearing a blue top. Upon hearing this, the village chief instructed his subordinates, "Hurry, hurry, hurry, pull up the surveillance footage from the village entrance this afternoon." Witnessing all of this, Grandma was so shocked that she had unknowingly let go of the doctor. "Are you really? Jack, my son, you've had such a hard life. What blue-clothed old woman? Tell me, what does she look like? I'll go and kill her." I hugged Grandma. "Mom, I'm so cold. The water in the river is freezing. Mom, I waited for so long. Why didn't anyone come to save me?" Grandma held me even tighter. "Poor child, let Mom warm you up. I hate them so much. Those heartless, ungrateful people. They stood by and did nothing. Son, if you can come back, make sure you take them all out. They all deserve to die." Grandma wasn't just saying it. She actually started listing the names of the people who had gathered by the river today. Uncle Bob, Grandma Linda, and the well-meaning person who tried to push her into the water. All were prominently included. This angered everyone. "You old fool. Have you lost your mind? It was you who didn't let us save you. And you even cursed those of us who tried to rescue you, saying we drown. Yes, Jack, it was your mother who wouldn't let us save you. Don't go seeking revenge on the wrong people." Hearing this, I pushed my grandmother aside and made the fiercest expression I could at the villagers. "You're lying. How could my mother harm me?" Turning to my grandmother, I said, "Mom, don't worry. I will definitely come back to find those people who killed me." Before I could finish speaking, my gaze lingered on my mother's upper body. "Wait, Mom, what color is the dress you're wearing?" The originally brown-stained outer garment, after my mother's frantic struggle in the water, had now revealed its original blue color again. Hearing my question, Grandma also looked down at herself in confusion. With just one glance, she immediately looked up in panic. But I was still staring intently at the clothes, mechanically asking, "Mom, what color is this dress you're wearing? Mom, what color is this dress you're wearing? Mom, what color is this dress you're wearing? Mom, what color is this dress you're wearing?" Each time I asked, Grandma's body leaned back a little more as the terror on her face grew more intense. Grandma's withered lips began to tremble. "Son," seeing that only the word son had fallen from Grandma's throat after a long pause, my mother said with a puzzled expression, "Isn't this dress just blue? Why do you keep asking so many times? Judy, didn't you and I go together to pick this out for Grandma?" The villagers also remembered. This afternoon, didn't Jack's mom say she almost got hit by a car? As everyone was recalling, the village chief's subordinate ran over, panting heavily. "Village chief, I was just about to send you the surveillance footage, but I accidentally sent it to the village group chat and can't take it back. Could you please tell everyone not to spread it around?" Upon hearing the news, everyone immediately opened their phones. As soon as the video started playing, an indescribable look of shock appeared on every villager's face. In the surveillance footage, as my uncle was driving his BMW through the village entrance, an elderly woman was slowly walking with a cane right in the middle of the road. Uncle didn't slow down when he encountered pedestrians. He only honked the horn to signal. Upon hearing the horn, the old lady also moved to the side of the road to make way for Uncle to pass. But just as Uncle was about to drive past the old lady, she suddenly swayed a few times from side to side and then smoothly collapsed in front of Uncle's car. Seeing the old lady lying down on the road, the uncle swerved urgently to avoid her, but the car's tires still headed straight for the old woman's head. The old woman nimbly rolled several times on the ground, dodging the car. However, due to oversteering, the car ended up heading toward the wall. To avoid hitting the wall, the BMW made another sharp turn and swerved back onto the main road. But on the road, the driver had clearly lost control of the car. After swerving in an S shape for a distance, it eventually plunged down the riverbank. Meanwhile, after tumbling a few times, Grandma stood up again. and even chased after the car for a while. Realizing she couldn't catch up, Grandma turned around, grumbling, and picked up her walking stick. What happened next was known to all the villagers present. After watching the video, everyone's expressions became extremely complex. Sighs, astonishment, anger, and regret all converged in that moment. The village chief faced Pa, uttering one sigh after another. Sigh, sigh, how could you? Sigh. It seemed as if no one knew what to say anymore. But the people who weren't present in the village group started discussing the video. The staged accident video looks so much like the entrance of our village. Could it be that Diana from our village is staging accidents again? Was the BMW driver rescued? Is everyone okay? From the village group chat records, I finally understood why Grandma Linda asked that extra question. It turns out it was all because my grandmother is an expert at staging accidents. If she slipped and fell on a snowy day, whoever helped her up wouldn't be able to leave without paying $5,000. If she fainted from heatstroke in the summer, whoever gave her a bottle of cooling water would have to pay an additional $3,000 for her stomach ache medical expenses. However, according to the village group chat, these were all small-scale activities for my grandmother. In the past, she used to target luxury cars, falling in front of them to force the drivers to stop. Then, she would bring in the mother-son duo, meaning she would have my uncle come out with his friends from the streets, claiming they had witnessed the car hitting her. They said that in just a few years, my uncle earned over $200,000 solely from these staged accidents. This also cleared up another question for me. No wonder my uncle was so good at staging accidents in his previous life. It turns out he and my grandmother had already collaborated so many times before. As for why I had no idea about it, it was because from the time I can remember, my uncle and grandmother had been forced to stop staging accidents. First, because they frequently targeted the nearby areas, causing an increase in traffic accidents, which drew the attention of the police and led to their detention and warning. The second lesson is that if you often walk by the river, your shoes are bound to get wet every day. She pretended to be hit by a car, until one day, her grandmother was actually hit. The driver didn't see the grandmother in front of the car, and ran over her foot. Fortunately, her grandmother reacted quickly, and only broke her foot. Otherwise, she might have lost her life. With all these factors combined, my uncle and grandmother were forced to change careers. It was only after my grandmother broke her foot that my mother finally learned what she had been doing. To prevent my grandmother from continuing, my mother paid for the best doctors to treat her foot injury, and from then on, transferred $6,000 to her every month for living expenses. That's why my mother had the strongest reaction at that moment. She knelt before her grandmother, tears rolling down from the corners of her eyes like large drops of jade. Mom, didn't you promise me you wouldn't do this again? I've been sending you money on time every month. Why are you doing this again? I was also curious about why Grandma had suddenly resumed her old trade, but I couldn't ask. I had a vague feeling that this matter might have something to do with my uncle. The villagers couldn't help but speak up. Enqua, your daughter is so filial, and you never have to worry about food or drink. Why would you do something like this? If you were short on money or had some trouble, you could have told the villagers. We could have helped you out as neighbors. Why did you have to go this far? Under the constant questioning, Grandma reached out and took Mother's hand, speaking softly. My daughter, your brother says he wants to buy a new car. Hearing this answer, my heart trembled. Is this what it truly means to spoil a child, as if killing them in order to buy a car for their son? They ended up accidentally harming their own son through a scam. Hearing this answer, my mother cried even more bitterly. Mom, you're being foolish. Seeing my mother crying nonstop, my grandmother stood up impatiently. What are you crying for? Your brother wants to buy a car, and all you do is cry. What does that mean now that you've grown wings? You're going against your brother, sending back just enough money each month to get by. Have you ever thought about it? Your brother is a man. How can he save face driving that broken-down truck? Grandma ignored the confused expression on my mother's face and continued speaking on her own. Just because you didn't give your brother money to buy a car, he's been sulking. It's this late, and he still hasn't come home. As she spoke, Grandma glanced toward the village entrance. While looking, she seemed to notice the onlookers for the first time. Seeing so many people, Grandma turned back and pulled my mother aside, saying, "Hurry up and get up. Stop crying here. Family scandals shouldn't be aired in public. If you cry here, everyone will see, and it will only embarrass your brother." Seeing my grandmother's irrational words, my mother cried so hard she nearly fainted. My father quickly stepped forward to hold her. My grandmother then turned her head and started calling for Harry again. "Good grandson, stop playing around and come home with Grandma to eat. If your dad comes back and sees you playing outside without eating, he'll scold you again." The villagers silently made way for the grandmother. Although the grandmother had done almost every bad thing imaginable, today she had lost her own child due to her own misdeeds, and the villagers found themselves unable to judge her any further. It seemed pitiful, but the hatred was real, so they all tacitly remained silent, saying nothing. But a child's reaction is often the most straightforward. Hate is hate, and love is love. Harry refused his grandmother's touch. "Don't touch me. You hurt Dad. I don't want you anymore. You're a bad grandma." But the grandmother paid no attention, grabbed Harry's arm, and started pulling him toward home. Harry, now about 8 or 9 years old, and not small in stature, struggled a bit and broke free from his grandmother. "You villain! Don't touch me! You're a murderer! Give me back my dad!" After breaking free, Harry raised his fists and began pounding them one after another on his grandmother. His grandmother was pushed back with each blow, but she didn't dodge at all, just stared blankly at her empty palm. It took a long while before a sentence finally fell from her lips. "It's gone. Everything is gone." After saying this, Grandma turned and walked toward the village entrance. Seeing that the situation was not right, my parents went up to stop Grandma, but they could stop her for a day, not for 1,000 days. In the end, Grandma still left later at my uncle's funeral. With so many people around, and no one keeping a close watch, Grandma went missing again. My parents searched the entire village. In the end, the police called to inform us Grandma had been hit by a car on a nearby road and was taken to the hospital, but she passed away despite medical treatment. Those who die an unnatural death cannot be left unburied for too long. So Grandma had to be buried the day after the car accident. This also meant there wasn't enough time to restore Grandma's body to its original state. In the end, Grandma was buried in a semi-compressed form. The monetary gifts received from the 2 funeral services were all given by my parents to the driver who hit Grandma as compensation for emotional distress. At my grandmother's funeral, my uncle's son, Harry, was taken away by his biological mother. The woman had divorced my uncle due to domestic violence years ago. She wanted custody of the child, but was threatened by my uncle and grandmother, and she didn't even dare to visit the child on ordinary days. Now that both my grandmother and uncle have passed away, she was finally able to see her child again. Under her guidance, a year later, Harry had completely changed, no longer as wild and unreasonable as he had been when he was with my grandmother. By the way, we can't call him Harry anymore. He changed his name to Simon, taking his mother's surname. The precious grandson that Grandma once held in her hands now has nothing to do with her anymore. However, Grandma and Uncle did leave behind some inheritance, a rural house, and $50,000 in cash. My parents originally intended to give the money to Simon for his future education, but Simon's mother didn't want this extorted money and didn't want to have any further ties with Uncle's family. Although my uncle also owes money to my parents, they still donated that cash to charity. As for that old rural house, my mother plans to sell it, because when she lived there with my uncle and grandmother in the past, she didn't retain a single happy memory, only recollections of being beaten in every corner of the house. So, whenever my mother sees the house, she feels nothing but annoyance. However, my mother hasn't had the chance to sell that house yet. Something astonishing happened. Parts of the village were included in the development plan and were slated for demolition, and the old house left by my grandmother happened to be right in the middle of it. According to reliable sources, the compensation from the demolition would be no less than $2 million. It's worth noting that even with my grandmother risking her life to help my uncle stage so many insurance scams, They had only managed to earn 200,000. The villagers all sighed with regret. If only Jack and his mother had waited another 6 months. That 2 million would have been enough for them to live on for the rest of their lives. To put it bluntly, it's karma. They did all sorts of bad things for money. If either of them had shown even a little kindness, they wouldn't have ended up dead. Now, that old house has finally created some happy memories for my mother. With over 2 million in compensation, my parents added some more money and bought our family a new, spacious apartment. The apartment has excellent ventilation with north-south exposure and is in a prime location, right next to a park where my parents take the dog for a walk every evening. I'm a bit stressed, though, because the neighborhood is next to the city's best middle school, and the pressure to perform academically has increased significantly. But I still have to study. After all, if you don't read enough books, you might end up like my uncle, not even knowing how to escape when disaster strikes. So, reading truly can change your fate. Tomorrow, I must study until I wear the books out tonight. I'll just have fun first. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comment section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you like this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.